Welcome to our Blitz Weekly Web Chat. It's our second episode of the year as we approach week 1 now of the high school football season. It's this Friday, August 24th. We're recording this on a Wednesday, though, of course. We have got our first glimpses of the teams across the Grand Strand, so what better thing than to, just blab about it. A couple of guests we hope to have each and every week. At least we did. For week 1, we had Guerin of the Sun News, and Matt Paris no longer here, but we got a fill-in right now with Aaron Marks from ESPN Radio as well.
Thank you. We kicked Matt out already.
Yeah, Matt will be back hopefully next week. So what'd you guys think? Week 1 or week 0 in the books, and at least high school football's back.
Right. It was kind of like what we said last week. It's now we have actual games to talk about instead of just guessing on what's going to happen down the line. So
Aaron gets to I guess you're the play-by-play voice all year for Carolina Forest, that's correct?
For the first part of the year, we're going to get Nicholas Baldino into that a little bit. But yeah, I got to do the Carolina Forest Sockesty game. I'll be doing Carolina Forest again this week, and very impressed with Sockesty quarterback Hunter Renfro. They hit him early and often, and Carolina Forest struggled quite a bit. They got a lot to work on this week.
That was the big talker of at least week 0, at least in my opinion, of the Grand Strand games. Let's take a look at the results from week 0 of the high school football season. Conway, 42-25 winners over Georgetown. North Myrtle Beach getting their first win in 23 tries, blowing out Waccamaw. Loris knocks off St. James in a tight one. Sockesty, Carolina Forest, 49-40. And Green Sea Floyd picking up a win under their new head coach. Let's start with our Grand Strand game of the week last week. You were at the game, Conway, Georgetown. Michael Moody, what more can you say?
Right, 224 total yards in a half. They want to preserve him. They want to keep him healthy, and the best way to do that is if they're blowing a team out, you're going to see Ethan Smith come in at quarterback, and everybody at Conway is more than comfortable with that. This is a kid who's injured his ankle, got a concussion last year, broke his collarbone in spring drills this year. If they can preserve him a little bit, they're going to do that.
Malcolm Green, 3 touchdowns, including 1 on special teams. That kid's pretty special, too.
Right. They've been waiting to have enough depth in the defensive secondary to move him back to the offensive side of the ball, and they believe they have that now. Malcolm is a special talent. You're going to be hearing a lot about him all season long.
Sockesty, 49-40 winner over Carolina Forest, Aaron, and it just seemed like that run game for Sockesty couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see the pass game a little bit more against Carolina Forest. We had heard they were going to go a little bit more vertical. Never happened, but they didn't need it to happen. It was run left, run right, run center. They broke off a couple 60-plus yard running plays for touchdowns. It couldn't be stopped. The defense was solid. Like I said early on, very impressed with Sockesty. They're in line to have a great season. Carolina Forest on the other side, they got a lot of work to do, particularly on the defensive side. I'm not so sure about the idea of not playing guys both ways. Towards the end of the game, we started seeing some of those offensive starters get in on the defensive side of the ball. We may see more of that next week.
Do you do that just to preserve your legs for guys in the beginning of the season, and then maybe towards the end of the season have your best players play both ways? Maybe that's just my opinion, Ian.
Right, and you'll see that a lot from a lot of teams on the Grand Strand, especially when they're dealing with early season heat, getting into the season. Maybe the conditioning isn't where they want it because they're building toward region play. Even the 4A teams with the point system all season long, they want to be at their best in region play. And if they wear some guy down, like Carolina Forest did last year with their 2 studs on the outside, then they're going to see some of those side effects, and they don't want that to happen. And I think you'll see some of those guys ease into playing 2-way football, come October.
One of the better individual performances was at Sockesty with the quarterback Renfro. But he not only was the great quarterback, he made some plays on defense too.
Oh my gosh, defense! He was returning kicks. He was spinning away on plays.
Isn't he the field goal kicker too?
Yeah, and the punter.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I think so. The kicking game was very interesting between Carolina Forest and Sockesty, but Renfro was doing it all. Yeah, he had a couple interceptions, great defensive plays, a lot of tackles. He was all over the place.
Right, he's a special talent. He was the only kid in the area last year to be toast of the coast from the Sun News on both offense and defense. And it's because he is all over the field. I think he averaged like 37, 38 yards a punt last year too. So he's really playing three-way ball, and I mean, heck, he's the best athlete at the school, any sport, hands down.
One of the best players and probably one of the more underrated players going into the season. He's just a junior, though, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. How about that? All right, let's start looking ahead to this week. We have 2 games for our games of the week. In the PD, Hartsville will be taking on Lamar, but the game we're going to be talking about here in our Grand Strand Weekly Web Chat, Loris taking on North Myrtle Beach. Loris picking up a narrow win over St. James on a wet field. I would say, we really haven't seen the Lions offense as of yet. They have a lot of athletes out there. So maybe on a dry field, North Myrtle Beach may be in some trouble.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the thing with Loris that people forget is that they like these defensive slugfest. I mean, last year they only allowed 13 points a game. And even though they got a former college offensive coordinator as their head coach now, they are a team built for defense. They want guys on the offensive side of the ball that are going to protect the football, keep it from going on the defense's hands and that kind of thing. They got Mikkel Souls, they got Ryan Bellamy. That's what those two guys are being asked to do this year.
And North Myrtle Beach on the other side, just confidence-wise, I mean, anyone can talk about this. If you lose 22 games in a row, you got it. Once you finally get that one win, maybe that can be, that what turns the corner. And I predicted it last week. I think they can go 5-5.
Well, they got off to a great start, too. Not only did they get the win, they did it in an impressive fashion, hanging 50 points on the board. They're pumped. They're excited. They've got a lot of confidence. I wouldn't write them off this week. I think they might have a shot to do it again.
Yeah, Kendrick Furness, their quarterback, a little sophomore. I went out to practice on Monday and got to talk to the running back as well. Delonzo Williams scored 4 touchdowns. And Williams said, I haven't had a quarterback that will will really communicate with me about what's going on with the plays. And he says, just a sophomore as Furness, he's already doing that. So Delonzo Williams is feeling comfortable in the backfield, and you saw big results on Friday night.
Right. At some point, Perry Woolbright's, experience on that side of the football was going to pay off. He was going to find some kid and pinpoint him early as someone who could lead that offense. A lot of us thought last year it was going to be Delonzo Williams, and now it's kind of turning out to be him and Kendrick Furness together, and the two of them are a nice package.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the other games going on in Week 1 for the high school football season this Friday night. Socastee is at West Brunswick. That game won't show up on your SCHSL schedule. You guys know what I mean on that. All right. St. James takes on Andrews, so they're traveling a little bit north. Creek Bridge taking on Ainer. Fort Dorchester heading over to Carolina Forest. Carolina Forest, a little tougher schedule this year than of past. Green Sea Floyd, they are at Waccamaw. Aaron, what stands out to you on some of our games from Week 1?
Well, certainly the Carolina Forest game. They've got a lot of improvements to make. They're going to be taking on a 4A school from down in the Charleston area, so looks to be an even stiffer challenge than it was in Week 0 against Socastee. So they've really got a lot of things to get together. I look to see them rely more on the running game with Atkinson this week. He didn't seem to get a lot of carries last week, but yet he still got 188 yards rushing. You got to rely on that guy. You got to give it to your ace in the backfield. And then perhaps defensively, like I said, we see more players on the first team offense, seeing some time on defense this week rather than completely separating that out. You got to have your best athletes on the field in these tough games.
I was talking to Ian before we came down on set here. 44 times did Will Brunson throw the ball. I don't want to see him throw the ball 44 times, but you apparently are saying that that's what they're going to be doing this year.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of the season, that right arm may be a little longer than the left, but they've got a new offensive coordinator, and we've got a big feature coming out on Friday in the paper about this.
Plug.
You got to plug your stuff. That's how you do it. And they've got a new offensive coordinator named Joe Blackwell. Joe Blackwell spent the last 10 years as an assistant in the college ranks, FCS football as the offensive coordinator at Norfolk State and South Carolina State. This is a spread guy. He came in, he had to learn their system before he could start tinkering with, putting in some of his own tweaks. His system is for that quarterback to throw the ball a lot and then open up running possibilities, and in this case for Harold Atkinson.
There's a lot on the shoulder of just a sophomore, Will Brunson. You saw the entire game. They had some critical turnovers. That seemed like it was the thorn in Carolina Forest's side. But overall, a Game 1 grade for Brunson, would you give him at least a B,
B minus, perhaps. He did what was asked of him. He was put in kind of a tough situation. Like I said, I want to see them run the ball first. They're probably going to be throwing the ball a lot more, like Ian said, though. We'll see if they can get some of those issues tidied up. When they threw the ball to the backfield to Atkinson, those were their best passing plays. When they would go play action, then he was out in the flats. That's how they got the first touchdown, a 34-yard screen pass to him. So if they can work that out a little bit more, then that's where they're going to be successful. Start with the short passes before you're heaving the ball deep down the field. Of course, this is a team that started playing from behind in the second quarter.
That's true.
Early third quarter, they were 3 touchdowns behind at one point. Right. So all of a sudden, they felt this need to go vertical down the field, shotgun spread, which I I don't think they needed to do that quite at that point. So we'll see if they have to be in that position again this week.
And when they do get locked into passing, series, when they have to score quickly, that's what you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see those screen passes to Harold Atkinson. And as I told Jeff before the show, don't be surprised if he has a couple 100-yard receiving games because of those.
Sure.
Not a whole lot of DBs in this area are going to be able to take him down. He's a big, thick kid, and he can run over a lot of people.
Well, we're all excited about all the Friday night action that's going to be going on. There's actually 2 games going on Saturday as well, and honestly, these probably are the 2 best games of the week. At least the one that I am really excited about is the first one, Northwestern taking on Conway. That's 2 4A powers, and I guess we'll find out if Conway's a 4A power in this game because Northwestern, if for those that are watching that didn't know, they came out and laid a whooping on Gaffney at Gaffney. What was it, 49-19?
Yes.
Northwestern's got this aerial attack. They call it the air raid, apparently, and it's the quarterback. The quarterback before was Justin Worley. He's at Tennessee right now. This guy is Mason Rudolph. Apparently, threw for 25 of 38, 270 yards against Gaffney. That's pretty good stuff. Wow. Conway's got their hands full.
And Mason's only a junior as well. You're going to be hearing about him for another year and a half too. So. I want to say first, as far as the the kickoff classic goes, Mark Stafford, I've known him for a little bit, even before I met him. He puts on a lot of big events, but with this one right here, he really lucked out because last year when they announced that Northwestern was going to be one of the teams in this first year of the event, he did not know that he had a team that was going to probably be nationally ranked and all this other stuff, and just go out and smoke Gaffney like they did last week. There's going to be a lot of people coming down for this game to see these 2 offenses go against each other.
Are you going to be calling the game? Because it's the Derek Law Firm Kickoff Classic presented by 100.3 The Team. We've got to give you a plug.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for that one. Yeah, we're not going to broadcast it. We're going to let the regular broadcast teams of their schools. It's already going to be a packed press box. We'll be set up out there. We've been heavily promoting it. I've been doing a lot of work with Mark, and going into that Northwestern Gaffney game, he was pulling for Northwestern, and he thought they could get the win. And when it happened, he was real excited. He came into the studio, cut a new promo, and all of a sudden, the feature game this week maybe turned into the 5 o'clock game rather than the 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock's going to be great though as well.
Did Mark wait until halftime to film that new plug, or did he do it halfway through the second quarter?
It was the first series. He was actually calling me. I said, Mark, I'm busy here at Carolina Forest. We'll do it on Saturday if you need to get it done that quickly. But no, Mark's a great guy. He's putting on a Class A event here in Myrtle Beach. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to have a very big city, college, and NFL feel to it. So certainly encourage people to come out and see some great football.
Yeah, he eventually wants to put this thing on TV, but we'll see how that goes down the road. Just thoughts on the game, Conway? I mean, have you got a chance to preview the game at all? McKelman, I think it relies on the Conway defense to win this game.
I think that's a big part of it. At the same time, if Conway does not pull Mikhail Moody and for the most part Malcolm Green from that game last week, they're going to have a very similar score in that game that Northwestern just beat Gaffney by. And, I mean, they put up 35 points in one half, and then Mikhail Moody sits on the bench. Malcolm Green only played a couple series in the second half. I mean, they kind of went into cruise control mode. I think if they had not done that, I think you'd have a lot more people kind of converging on Doug Shaw for that 5 o'clock game on Saturday.
So would you say that Northwestern's the favorite?
Yes.
Heavy favorite?
Yeah, and until Conway beats them, Northwestern's the favorite in that game. They've got to be.
The other game, Irmo at Myrtle Beach. Irmo lost a tough game to South Point last week, and South Point, they're a traditional power. It was a tight game. I read the article. 17-10 late turnover by Irmo was the difference. Myrtle Beach, we really haven't got a chance to see them. They're going to go to the one quarterback system. I guess the traditional system. And Tyler, is it Keen?
Keen.
Are you sure?
Positive. Keen. Ask the kid directly. It's the best way to do it.
Last year we asked the kid, and he didn't care what we said. And maybe he was just happy to be on TV.
Well, when Jeff Zell asks you a question, I mean, you just kind of get a little giddy. I mean, I'm like that now.
You're just excited.
I'm like that now. That sheen on the top of my head has got to be turning red right now.
I'm blushing myself, too. So what do we expect from Myrtle Beach this year?
Voice cracking a little bit there?
Yeah, it was. Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach is going to be another strong team. You know, they opened up the season in the newspaper statewide poll. number 3 in Class 3A. You know, these are kids that, for the most part, have been running Mickey Wilson's system since they were in 7th and 8th grade. They know what they're doing. You know, occasionally a transfer will come in. They've got a couple this year that are going to, you know, be major contributors. But for the most part, everybody knows what they're doing. So when they lose guys, it's not a big deal on that offensive side of the ball.
I think would it be a stretch by saying this that the defense is going to be ahead of the Seahawk offense to start the season? There's a lot of good talent back.
Yes.
One of our favorites, OT, Octavius Thomas. They got a DB, Chocolate Wilson, that's getting heavily recruited. Right. Who else they got on that defensive side of the ball?
Sean Michael Orcutt, returning tackler from last year, who basically jumped into OT's spot. Now they've got both of them on the field. They've got a couple of younger defensive linemen. That's going to be their big question mark, is whether or not they can get the, you know, they had 3 starters last year that I think at least 2 of them are playing in college right now. You know, they got to replace those guys, and those were a big part of that defensive unit last year that was one of the best in the area.
Final thoughts, just heading into week 1 here, Aaron.
Well, it should be an exciting weekend. I'm looking forward to both games on Saturday. I think they're going to both be outstanding football games. The first one, if Conway's defense, like you said, can slow down a little bit Northwestern's offense, it could be an interesting game. I think Myrtle Beach comes out playing well. And Friday night, you know, we've got some other storylines to look at on Friday night as teams try to fix some issues from this past week or keep the momentum going, like when you look at the Socasties and the Lorises and North Myrtle Beaches going head-to-head. So we'll see who can keep it going there.
Yeah, Coach Jamie Snyder from Loris said you'll see the most improvement out of all teams from your first game to your second game. So we'll see a lot this week. Final thoughts, just looking ahead to week 2.
Yeah,
week 1.
You kind of tipped into it a little bit. You're going to see some of that off-season rust really get knocked off. I mean, these guys have had a game now to get ready to try to execute against players who don't know what's coming at them and all of that. I think that's going to be the big difference, and you're going to see, you know, maybe some of those contenders versus pretenders arguments really start up.
I like the cliche.
Yep.
All right. He's Ian Guerin of the Sun News. We got Aaron Marks of ESPN Radio Myrtle Beach. I'm Jeff Zell. Like I said last week, you can read it, listen to it, and then watch it all on Friday night and Saturday morning. Thanks, guys, for helping out with the weekly webcast, and thank you for logging on.